What's going on, America? This is Kevin from Kevin's Corner, where I try to make sense out of nonsense. And I got a glimpse of a couple clips from the DNC's little powwow they had last night, their little get-together, their little virtual chat. It appears that, they talked about a lot of stuff. They talked about President Trump is mean and he's bad and he's divisive and all of that stuff. And then they talked about, moving forward. And they tried to motivate, I guess, their whole voter base by telling them that things are horrible, they gotten bad, they keep getting worse. The president doesn't handle problems the correct way. What else? You name it. It was a whole bunch of the stuff we've been hearing for 4 years. And of course, they're trying to piggyback off of COVID and how it came in and the economy took a hit and all that stuff, and they're sweeping down. Trump's not handling things correctly. And I guess they think Joe Biden would be better. And they address things that they think that the American people are really concerned about. Now I'm thinking, something very important that they forgot to address, which is probably very important to most Americans, probably even more so than COVID, is their personal safety. Meaning this, yeah, we know COVID's out there. Just like we know the flu's out there, all kind of stuff is out there. But I would take my chances with that because getting it might take, some time. If you get it, you got a high survival rate. All that, you may not even get it. But as I look at the streets in their cities and the violence that is occurring, I would put that at the top of my priority list. However, I didn't hear any of them address this stuff. Now, I'm a little concerned because I remember all these narratives that President Trump and his divisive language is ginning up all this hate and racism from Trump supporters, white nationalists, all that stuff. And they would come up with hoaxes like, Jesse Smollett and, out in Chicago, middle of the night, freezing. He had to get him a sub sandwich. I mean, what you want him to do? Starve? So he goes to get, the story. Then there was Bubba Wallace with the noose. I mean, look at this thing right here. It's a noose. Oh, it pours the garage door. Oh, my fault. All of those fake hate crimes compared to the real hate crimes that are going on around the United States and their city. In fact, I haven't heard of a legitimate hate crime from a Trump supporter since Trump's been in office. All the violence seems to be coming from the people that vote for the Democrats because they have spent 4 years drumming up all of this divisiveness, anger, bitterness, all of these messages of racism, sexism, misogyny, xenophobia, all coming from them. We're not running around talking about this stuff. They're driving their people to commit the real hate crimes. So I think it's important that we go and investigate this and see how it's playing out across the United States and find out what would be the priority for citizens. Would it be, I want COVID gone, that's nice, but I don't want to walk out to my car and be bashed over the head by a big group of Antifa people. I don't want to be downtown trying to shop and all of a sudden Black Lives Matter come along, break down the door and go in, take all the goods and services and might even knock me down, bust my head to the white meat. So let's get into that for a second. And you know what? I think we need to go back in time and see the prediction of all of this stuff coming to pass and see how it all fits into today. So let's get busy.
A book that I think ought to be in every home library. It's entitled Color, Communism, and Common Sense by Manning Johnson. Manning Johnson was a Negro, and he was also a member of the Communist Party. He joined the party as a young man because he honestly believed that the communists were trying to improve the conditions of his people. He was a dedicated communist. But after many years, Manning Johnson finally came to the realization that the communists weren't the least bit interested in improving the conditions of the Negro people. He discovered that...
So if I'm understanding the man in black and white, meaning the color of the, film and all, it's a throwback. You would think that stuff that he's talking about all those years ago wouldn't be applicable in today's society, but it appears that it is, because see, he's talking about folks that have evaluated society, have deemed it to be very fragile when it comes down to racial tension, and they're exploiting that by driving racial narratives into society to drive them apart. Because see, if we didn't see each other as black, white, you know, red, green, all these different colors, then we probably would see each other as just Americans. So then, as I see the Democratic Party that can't go 2 or 3 minutes in a speech without bringing up some type of victimization, bringing up something about race, I'm starting to think they've adopted this tactic that this man is speaking about many, many years ago. If you don't believe me, just turn on CNN, MSNBC, or just go through the whole litany of archives of Democratic politicians that somebody stuck a mic in their face, and see how long it take them to make that nice turn down racist street and start talking about racism, every debate, racism, all of those things. They've discovered that string, and it appears that they're just pulling it every day, pulling it, and folks don't even see it. They don't even realize that somebody snagged their clothes, and as they're walking, the whole shirt is unraveling. And it's kind of playing out. Right now, that guy must have been onto something. Let's continue.
Instead, they were merely planning to use his people, and these are his words, to use them as cannon fodder in a bloody revolution to destroy America. As early as 1928, the communists declared that the racial differences among our people constituted the weakest and most vulnerable point in our social fabric. By constantly probing and straining at this one spot, they calculated that eventually the cloth could be torn apart and that Americans could be divided, weakened, and perhaps even set against each other in open combat.
So now I'm seeing a couple parallels here. So this guy, Manning, I guess he joined the Communist Party because they fed him a bunch of garbage about, you know, we trying to make everything equal. We're fighting for justice and equality and against racial, segregation, all that good stuff. And he jumped in based on all of those pipe dreams, based on all of that, wearing a white hat, and we'll do everything for you because we love you. We love you. And come to find out, he realized that they really didn't love him. In fact, they weren't trying to better their condition. They were using them, which I can see a parallel, because the Democrat Party has been doing the same thing to black people, telling them we're fighting for justice and equality. And you know what, if you stick with us, we'll get you to the promised land and stuff like that. But somehow all these years, 40, 50 years of Democratic, politicians in black neighborhoods and urban areas talking about, yo, we're going to make conditions better for you. Somehow they never got better. So I'm starting to think they don't want them to get better, because if they get better, they could never use all of this oppression that they created in their neighborhoods, in their areas, anger, grief, division, and racial narratives to have young black impressionable men and women do their bidding, which is being done right now, which is causing a huge racial divide in America, and then driving these folks to commit all types of domestic terrorism. And that goes for the little young stupid white kids with Antifa running around doing the same thing. So, man, what the Democratic Party has been doing and what they've been up to really appears just like what this man is describing. Could it be? Nah.
Must not be led into placing the blame for the riots, the civil disorders, on the Negro people of our nation. Even those few who are promoting hatred and violence in the black communities are not themselves the cause. They're merely being used by forces far bigger than they are.
Direct their force at peaceful protesters.
The vast majority of the protests have been peaceful.
And they're going and just pulling people off the street to make it seem like there are problems going on when all that's happening are peaceful protests.
On our peaceful protesters' ability to get out at night.
Most of these protests have been peaceful.
I applaud these protesters.
The majority of these protesters are peaceful. They have been peaceful for weeks.
It has continued, for the most part, peaceful.
It was peaceful. We had a number of peaceful protests.
This is a party who never seen before in our history have we seen a political party disparage the brave men and women of our police force and be so taken by the left-wing mob, the defund the police wing of their party, and allow communities to be completely overtaken by crime. Any person that wants to live in a safe community and doesn't want to see this type of thing continue can't in good conscience vote for Joe Biden.
Hoping to avoid further violence and bloodshed, the public is to be pressured into accepting measures that will move the country gradually and legally toward communism, but without calling it that. The strategy of the proletarian revolution calls for the quiet conversion of our government into a communist regime, but under the banner of socialism. The new program of the Communist Party on this subject has this to say. The term socialism describes but the first stage of a new society that in its full development is called communism. Socialism is a transitional stage. The building of socialism is the communist revolution in America. It represents the process whereby our country can be moved gradually toward communism without the people even being aware of it. They have one and only one solution for all problems: more government. More government, and then more and more until it's total government. Total government is communism. We must not be fooled into thinking that the causes of our civil turmoil are such things as poverty, poor housing, lack of education, and similar social or economic factors. As a matter of fact, most of
somebody decides to loot a Gucci or a Macy's or a Nike, because that makes sure that that person eats. That makes sure that that person has clothes. That's reparations. That is reparations. Anything they want to take it, because these businesses have insurance. They're going to get their money back. My people aren't getting anything.
Today's self-styled revolutionaries, black and white, come from good homes, could earn better than average incomes if they wanted to work. And in fact, they're products of some of the finest institutions of higher learning. We mustn't resort to violence either as a means of furthering political or social goals. And we must do everything humanly possible to discourage others from doing so. We must support our local police. Nothing can be quite so damaging to police morale and efficiency as converting every arrest into a trial of the policeman instead of the criminal.
Sunday night, 18 people were arrested near a police union building. Rioters threw bottles and fireworks. Several police officers were injured. That's a phrase we've uttered a lot on this show. Some officers are tired of being used for target practice, and they've had enough. Watch.
You having a good day today? Not really. You're around. Oh, well, I'm sorry for that, but don't worry, man, because guess what? I'm leaving. You guys won. Fucking 2 months, baby. I'm out. You're about to resign? I'm gone, bro. How you feeling about that? You're about to resign? I'm feeling great. You're about to resign or what? Yeah, I'm feeling great. Is that what you're saying when you... Yes. I am leaving this department. You guys won.
Wondered why the Communist Party has been a staunch supporter of the drive to place a black studies curriculum into our high schools and colleges. Well, the reason becomes obvious the minute you take a look at the textbooks and the study guides. Under the guise of academic balance, these courses have become a brilliant device for conditioning young people to accept still one more part of the total program for revolution. We must discover the identity of those individuals, both above and below, who consciously are furthering the communist program for revolution, and then remove them from their positions of trust and leadership. Now, of course, the minute you begin to think along these lines, you'll become the target of a whole barrage of attacks. You'll be called a right-wing extremist, a fascist, or at least a dictator. Some years ago, I happened to attend a meeting where several anti-communist refugees from behind the Iron Curtain were called upon to relate their personal experiences. One of the refugees spoke up and he said, "You know, I came to America expecting to find a nation of free men, but instead, I find exactly the same thing. Everywhere I look, I see men and women who know that communists are making headway in this country. They know that something must be done, and that someone must stand up to them. But they themselves do nothing. They remain silent because they're afraid that if they speak out or take a stand publicly, it'll be bad for business. They may lose a client. They may even lose their jobs. If communism should ever come to America, we'll face more death, destruction, and human suffering than any people in history has ever faced at the hands of their invading conquerors. It's literally a question of life and death for all of us.
In Chicago, a city under siege by looters over the weekend, Mayor Lori Lightfoot instilling a curfew. For the second night, drawbridges were raised and freeway entrances closed. Business owners, scared of losing everything, hoping the curfew will provide a much-needed break from the lawlessness.
Social media posts encouraging looting downtown for the car caravans that headed into the Loop, with dozens of people ransacking stores after midnight. It happened as dozens of looters took to the streets of the Mag Mile in River North, clearing out stores.
The looting continues, and this is right by Jess.
Okay, so what you're seeing is people breaking into the Potbellies on State and Lake, smashing windows here.
Here's BLM security, guys. They're making the rounds. They see some shenanigans going down, and so they run over towards this. The person causing this fight seems to flee, but look at this. BLM security gets into the face of a trans woman right here, start accosting her, and to this trans woman's credit, she ain't taking none of this nonsense. It's not one of those evil white supremacist cops. No, it's black security. Now this woman's spitting on this trans woman. Again, these are all the lefties who call us transphobes and homophobes and gayphobes, and they're literally robbing this trans individual out in the middle of Portland. Well, and like that, there goes an assault. Now they're attacking. Isn't that a hate crime? This dude in the blue shirt, one of these white supremacists, comes out and starts to do some protection. But nope, black woman over here's not having it. Black dude's not having it. White woman's back again. She's not having any of this. Look at all of this is being done again by the tolerant left. They're literally beating up a trans woman out in public. There goes a kick to the face, some more hitting and punching. Black dude's like, okay, well, that's enough. That's enough assault. I'll start protecting now. Now I'll jump in. Lefties, Joe Biden voters don't seem to like the trans community very much. Trans community, heads up. Here comes the dude in the Autobot shirt. He's trying to run a little bit of protection again, and that's going to be this dude's downfall. See, you are not allowed to protect people against the violent BLM criminality. Oh, hell no. Which leads us to this. Woman, I guess, gets out of the truck. Not a good move. She's now getting attacked. He's thinking he better go protect her. She's trying to walk away. Oh, hell no. Attack from behind. Tolerant Joe Biden voters continue to assault this individual now. Security. That white lady starts to take off. Now, the dude in the truck is like, I'm probably going to leave. Now's a bad time to be around in this area. He starts trying to take off. BLM starts coming to kick his truck. Of course, they're screaming that it's an a-la snack bar white terrorism situation. He's trying to run them over. He's not trying to run them over. He's trying to not get Reginald Dennied in this situation. And so he takes off. But he ends up losing control of his car. He crashes into a tree. BLM security catches up to him. They pull him out of the truck. It looks like they're trying to set off flares or fireworks underneath his truck. Probably. They now throw him down to the ground, and they start punching him and kicking him while he's on the ground. Now watch this. So All these individuals right here, the entire point of this movement is to fight against police brutality. They want to be the new police. And look at what they do. They throw him down to the ground. They throw him back down to the ground. He tries to get up. Now they start punching him and kicking him. These are all Joe Biden voters. Nobody from the left is calling out any of this nonsense.
It's hard to watch. They nearly killed him. They beat him unconscious. We just learned the man is still in the hospital tonight. The monster who kicked him in the head as he sat there defenseless, the cretin wearing the jacket that says security on it, has not been arrested. These are Joe Biden's voters screaming slurs as they kick people in the head. This is the media's team. They don't want you to know what nonviolent protests actually look like. When BLM lunatics call for the murder of police, and they do, the other networks act like it never happened. For months, elected Democrats have tacitly endorsed this, the violence in our streets. They inspired it. They watched it happen. They refused to condemn it. Jerry Nadler just pretended he had no idea what you were talking about when you asked. But this weekend, they dropped the pose. The blurry line between violent mob and Democratic office holders disappeared completely. Here is John Thompson. He's a Democratic State House candidate in the state of Minnesota. Thompson, and we want to be clear about this, is not some fringe candidate. Thompson has won the endorsement of the governor of the state, Tim Walz, its Attorney General Keith Ellison, as well as of Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. But John Thompson isn't simply a Democratic candidate, he's also a violent thug. Here's Thompson the other day threatening a family, women and children, at their home.
I'm a black man being terrorized by this Klansman right here. We are terrorized by the Grand Wizard. Y'all got the Grand Wizard living in your goddamn neighborhood. All the Klan exists in Hugo, Minnesota, and it's right here. Don't run now. Don't run now, racist white people. I'm here. Oh yeah, we pull up. We pull the out. And if people in Hugo don't support black people, Hugo, Minnesota.
A normal political party would expel someone like that immediately. He's a lunatic, screaming at women on their front lawn, obscenities, threats. A normal country would arrest him. But Democrats allowed Thompson to write a cynical non-apology for what you just saw, in which he concedes that his threats of violence against young women were, quote, not helpful. Why was Thompson allowed to do that? He was allowed to do that because Democratic leaders agree with what he said. Here's Kamala Harris explaining that people like Thompson are the good guys, and everyone else, you, is a bigot and deserve what you get.
You have one ticket that can say the phrase Black Lives Matter, and another who has been full-time sowing hate and division in our country.
Oh, so what do you do with people who've been spending full time endorsing hate and division? You know.
Now, based on all of the violence we've been seeing across the whole United States in all democratically ran cities, it appears that they have implemented the diabolical scheme that the man that's doing the narration in black and white prophesied, talked about. Somebody done got hold to that playbook this man was reading, and they're using it on us right now. And what's crazy about that is during all of their rhetoric, all of the talk of racism and all that stuff, sexism and all these accusations towards Trump, the one important thing they never address is the out of control daily and nightly violence in their cities. When you see this stuff going on in their cities, they should be held accountable. Now, that man, that sorry big bag of nothing dude to kick this white guy in his face, man, he needs the business. All of that is taking place because of Democratic leadership. And because they have left the folks vulnerable and encouraged all of this violence and protesting and uprising and, discord amongst all of the young people out there and in, these liberal cities, those are the people that need to be accountable for that man almost getting killed. It's no different than how they embrace illegal immigrants and give them refugee status in their cities, talking about it's a sanctuary city, letting them out of jail, and then somebody else gets killed because they wanted to bypass dealing with ICE because they want to encourage illegal immigration. Somebody gets killed from someone they let out. You know who should be brought in on charges? The mayor, the darn judges, the governor, whoever said, let's not work with ICE. Come on, come one all. You know, come on, get on in here, everybody. We'll keep you safe. Those are the people that need to be held accountable, because by their actions, they're responsible for someone getting hurt because they didn't abide by the law. Same thing with all of these cities that all of this violence is taking place. When I saw that, I said, this right here is a shame before God. That man, when he recovers, he needs to sue the whole city for letting this stuff go down every single night. The Democrat politicians are good for nothing, except for the real division that's taking place that they're trying to blame Trump for. They're good at projection. They're good at throwing up false narratives. They're good at trying to divide everyone, giving all of these crazy, stupid promises that they never fulfill. You know, we're taking care of you, we're going to make sure, and all that stuff. That's what they're good at. Big bags of hot air. Other than that, they're politicians for nothing. Anyway, so that's where it's at. Now you see what's happening with the police. It's absolutely a shame, because now the police are going, you know what? I'm throwing my hands up. I'm bouncing. And I tell you this in closing, every person that lives in those cities, I hope they see the writing on the wall and bounce. And every person that supports all of that stupid chaos that's going on in these liberal cities, these democratically ran cities, then I tell you what, if you don't already live there, if you get on this video talking about, man, you know what, it's all about racism, and okay, I tell you what, leave your nice, peaceful city or state and move to Portland, move to Chicago, move to one of these cities where it has become the Wild Wild West, and then I might believe you are really standing for justice and you're down with the people. Because it appears that these angry young protesters / rioters, they don't care if you liberal or if you are conservative. They're about violence, and I blame the Democratic leaders for this. Now, you've been listening to Kevin and Kevin's Corner, and I try to make some sense out of nonsense, but man, this type of nonsense, whew. Anyway, so God bless you. Don't forget to hit like, share, subscribe, and the notification button. Check me out every Wednesday night live in Kevin's Corner on Facebook, YouTube, and my radio blog talk show. Check out Extreme Teas, my sponsor. If you like the products, click on the link below. You'll get a 20% discount. Want to donate to Kevin and Kevin's Corner, feel free. Links are below. And yeah, we'll see you next time in Kevin's Corner. Man, and the Democrats talking about taking guns. And they done took us back to the Wild Wild West. The Wild Wild West.